Alright guys, welcome back to some more Ace Attorney 2. So currently right now we are investigating in Madame Tussbell's Waxwork Museum and trying to figure things out in order to help out at the trial we're currently about to revisit soon enough. So for anything else guys, I hope you all continue to enjoy watching, and let's get right back to it. Alright guys, and we are back. Last winter, when we were first on our way to Britain aboard the steamship, your words were very clear. So then, let us unravel this mystery and discover what events led to this curious murder. You told us that it was a murder, and you examined Kazuma's body. Indeed, and wherein lies the problem. We met him earlier today, the victim, Kazuma Asogi. You're quite sure? He was wearing some sort of mask and was apparently suffering from amnesia. But yes, I'm quite sure. It was Kazuma-sama. You must have known at the time, Mr. Sholmes, that he wasn't actually dead. Well, I can only assume I was swept up in the murderous atmosphere at the moment. But the fellow wasn't dead at all. Priceless. I don't suppose that performance would pass muster, would it, Mr. Naruhodo? I could believe that the crewman present at the time made a mistake, but not you, Mr. Sholmes. I will now tell you something of the first importance, my dear fellow. Great detectives. Wait, is that a typo? Great detectives are wont to lie? I don't know if that's it seems odd. Anyway, it would serve you well to remember that. Please, Mr. Sholmes. Tomorrow in court, you will find yourself in the threshold of a very great mystery. For now, I'm afraid that is all I can say. I have a suggestion, Mr. Naruhodo. Will you indulge me? Oh, well, what is it? As I explained to you when you arrived, the missing waxwork has been returned. And I personally reinstalled it in the exhibit from which it was taken, behind those thick curtains. Oh, yes, the Professor exhibit, isn't it? Would you like to see it? For a mere 5 shillings, that's a special one-time only price, you understand. What? The opportunity won't come again, I might add. Wouldn't you like to see the fruits of my labor? Oh, well, do you have a rather pressing investigation to carry out? Perhaps we could postpone. The price is a very reasonable 5 shillings. I think you'll find it's well worth it. Are you being quite serious, Mr. Sholmes? Surely you need only look at my expression to ascertain if this is serious or silliness. I can never tell with you, that's the point. Very well, it couldn't hurt. Here's your 5 shillings. Greatly received. So, the special exhibit awaits behind the curtain. I invite you to peruse at your leisure. Well, the money's been spent, so let's go and see the special exhibit. Dude, those heavy curtains at last. Alright, let's get to it. 5 shillings we've had to pay. It doesn't seem right somehow that Mr. Sholmes slipped the money into his own pocket, does it? No. Ah, we could ask Gina to retrieve it for us, using her special skills. Pickpocketing police officers and diddling detectives. Is this what makes Britain great? Not to mention, demigod prosecutors taking the law into their own hands or trip-loving inspectors. Inspector Gregson comes off rather well in the list, I think. (23rd of October), Madame Tussbell special exhibit. Whoa. Oh dear, I felt the shiver run down my spine as soon as we walked in here. Mr. Sato, I say we turn on our heels and go straight home, via really big confectionery. We certainly can't do that. We paid 5 shillings already. True. Actually, now I'm looking a little more closely. We paid good money to see an exhibit that's clearly incomplete. The nerve of the great diddling detective is far more terrifying than anything else in this place. This must be what Mr. Sholmes meant when he said the case was largely solved. Be that as it may, Mr. Sholmes heavily implied there'd be a clue about the engineer in here, didn't he? But where? Since we paid 5 shillings, let's do 5 shillings worth of investigation, shall we? Yes, we will get what we paid for. It's that fear or frustration that's making Susato-san's voice tremble. Okay, well, we did pay a lot. Let's check some things out then. Let's check out these 2, especially this one. This part of the exhibit is just as disturbing as the rest. It looks so real. It seems to be a young man in a white overcoat. And he has a large shovel in his hand too, look! Perhaps we should investigate it in a little more detail. Okay. Oh, this dude has a camera. Let's examine the camera then. What's this here? Well, this would appear to be a lens in the middle, so I believe it's probably a camera. A camera? But it's so small. British technology is incredible, isn't it? I mean, what about Mr. Sholmes' skin prints? I think perhaps you should treat Mr. Sholmes' inventions as exceptions to the rule. But anyway, why would the man be in a graveyard at night with a camera? I wonder. Perhaps he was trying to capture the moment a dead body came back as a ghost on film? We'll just borrow this for a little while, I think. Alright, we got that into the court record. By looking at the photographic plate inside the camera, we can see what the picture was taken. What's a photographic plate? It's a piece of glass coated in special emulsion that reacts to the light coming in through the lens. If we open the cover at the back of the camera, we should find it. Let's have a look. You should see it yourself, Susato-san. Your eyes are shining. You really do like machinery, don't you? I'm just trying to see. Can we... Because I'm trying to see... The lantern. That's quite a large lamp the man's carrying. Or is it a lantern? It's not unlike a Japanese chochin paper lantern, actually, is it? Lamp, lantern, chochin. The point is, it casts very little light. To be walking alone in a graveyard at night with only this. Well, I certainly couldn't do it. I'm not sure I could visit a graveyard at all, even in broad daylight, to be honest. Okay. I'm trying to see if there's anything else to examine here. No? Wait, what about? What a large shovel. He's holding it rather ominously, isn't he? What on earth was the man doing with a shovel in a graveyard in the middle of the night? Mr. Sato. Yes? That's a spade, isn't it? No, it's a shovel. No, shovels are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a spade. We've been through this, Mr. Naruhodo. It's a shovel. No. Although, we haven't considered trowels. We've allowed ourselves to be distracted, I feel. Perhaps we should concentrate on what the man was doing with the implement. So we're going to bury the hatchet? You're right, though. What's the man doing in the graveyard in the first place? That's the real question. Alright, Wait. I can't see his face very well, can you? Perhaps if I just... Oh, do you think you should be manhandling the exhibits, Mr. Naruhodo? I'll put it back exactly as it was, don't worry. Ah! What on earth? How can... I don't believe it. A black monocle. Mr. Naruhodo, is it possible that this man is... Yes. It's Enoch Drebber. The color of his hair is different, but... Oh, I'm reading with the wrong voice. The color of his hair is different, but... It's unmistakably him. Indeed it is. Mr. Sholmes. This man is the subject of your present hunt, I believe. Yes, that's right. Just who is this man? Why is he here in this exhibit? And why does the convict behind him have no head? The head was missing when the model was returned by the thief who stole it. What a surprise. So then the case isn't yet solved, is it? Did I say so myself? Largely solved were my words, I believe. But I must locate the missing head, tout de suite, as Madame would say, or I'll be in grave trouble. A very hungry Irish still awaits my return to Baker Street, preferably with rations. Ah. Do you know, though, something about this room is strange. Strange? What do you mean? Well, the displays in the House of Horrors are supposed to depict real events, are they not? Indeed they are, Mrs. Sato. Do go on. And as terrifying as they are, the scenes in the other exhibits are believable. But this one... This surely couldn't ever really have happened, could it? I think it's time I educated you a little. About the nature of the incidents involving the professor 10 years ago. Alright, converse it shall be then. The resurrecting convict. I believe I told you a little about the professor yesterday, did I not? He took the lives of 5 victims, everyone being either a member of our aristocracy or royalty. All were attacked by an enormous hunting hound and had their throats ripped from their bodies. Oh gosh! An enormous hound? How awful! After taking the life of his 5th victim, the killer was apprehended. It was a case of unprecedented magnitude in Britain, you understand. Accordingly, the professor was tried in a closed court. No members of the public were permitted. Closed court? So you mean that the professor's identity... As you surmise, my dear fellow, his identity was never made public. Naturally, he was found guilty and was summarily sentenced to death by hanging. He was buried in a grave at Lowgate Cemetery, which adjoins the rear of the prison where he had been held. However, that was not the end of the affair. Oh! The very night that he was buried, the convicted man came back to life. Came back to life? He clawed his way out of the ground and emerged into the moonlit graveyard. The exhibit here depicts the very scene as described by the sole witness to those chilling events. There was a witness? But of course, my dear fellow, it was none other than the young man in the white overcoat. Enoch Drebber. He saw it happen? So this is a waxwork model of Enoch Drebber. 10 years ago, the convicted professor, having been gibbeted and buried, emerged from his grave in the dead of night. The sole witness to that unimaginable scene was this young man. From appearances, I would say he was about 20 years old. It's so horrifying! Scared out of his wits, the young Drebber ran to a nearby police station to report the incident. And the sheer terror of what he'd seen is said to have turned his hair white overnight. Yes, as shown in the photograph we have of him, his hair is completely white. For the following few days, the story of what he'd seen was on every front page in the capital. The public was frantic for every last detail but the killer who'd come back to life. As you've seen, an exhibit was even created here at Madame Tuspel's. I can quite understand why the man's hair turned white, certainly. But what I don't understand is what Mr. Drebber was doing in the first place, in a lonely graveyard in the middle of the night. Yes, what was he up to? The professor's acts of terror threw London's upper classes into complete panic 10 years ago. It was a great scandal, one might say, at the very highest levels of society. And since the killer's identity was never made public, rumors abounded. After all, no killer had ever before systematically employed a dog as a weapon of murder. Yes, I can imagine the impact the case must have had. But in time, of course, the rumors abated. So too did talk of the shocking witness account of the convict who came back to life. It was forgotten, dismissed as a dubious ghost story, as preposterous parlor tale. But why did people stop believing it? Why, simply because there was no resurrection to speak of, as was established in fact. What do you mean by no resurrection? The police investigated the grave in Lowgate Cemetery and published their findings. The convict's body was found to be buried exactly where it had been following the execution. No, but that would mean Mr. Drebber must have lied to the police and the newspapers. That would appear to be the only logical explanation, yes. The young man subsequently vanished from society and nothing has been heard of him since. It's rather striking then that he should resurface now, don't you think? Of course, the convicted murderer couldn't really have come back to life, that's not possible. But Drebber's hair is unusually white, and if that really did happen overnight as a result of shock, it's hard to believe the incident was an out-and-out lie. See, we can easily surmise he dyed his hair white, but seeing as this is a game/anime, things like that does happen. Alright, let me check out the Headless Stomp here. This must be the killer. The fiend known as the Professor. Yes, I think so, according to what Madame Tuspel said. He killed 5 victims, all of noble or royal blood. The waxwork is so lifelike, isn't it? Like all the models in this place. I know. It looks like it could start moving at any moment, doesn't it? If only it had a head, that is. Perhaps you should examine it a little more in detail. So this is the condemned man. Yes, the so-called professor. Then perhaps his head was chopped off by a guillotine? But unable to find peace, he emerged from the grave as a headless ghost? Do we have to entertain such terrifying ideas, Mr. Sato? Anyway, I'm sure the model had a head once. There's a metal fitting for it, see? Then perhaps Mr. Sholmes absentmindedly forgot to reattach it? That's an extremely absent-minded detective you're describing, isn't it? Or perhaps the thief absent-mindedly forgot to include the head when he or she returned it to the museum? And that would be an extremely absent-minded thief. Could there have been some reason why only the head wasn't returned? Well, whatever the reason, it means we don't know what the face of the infamous professor looked like, do we? Oh! There's something caught just inside the convict's jacket here. It looks like a piece of broken glass. And quite a big piece, too. It's very thick, isn't it? About 5 times thicker than normal window glazing, I'd say. Where could such a thick piece of glass have come from, I wonder? I suppose it must have been made thick to increase its strength. But why? Well, perhaps because the glass had to span a particularly wide area, such as in a big building, for example. Well, we've seen a large glass building recently, haven't we? And some of the glass was broken too. You don't mean... Exactly, the Crystal Tower at the Great Exhibition. But why would glass from the Crystal Tower be lodged inside this waxwork's jacket? It makes you think, doesn't it? Alright, we got another one for the record. Earlier in court, we established that the kinesis experiment was a trick. And now we discovered this fragment of glass here, and this waxwork is... Is it just a coincidence? Uh-huh. Ah! What, Leonora Otto? What have you gone and done? Gina, what are you doing here? I asked Iris and she said this is where you'd be, so... Gina! That's around the museum. Madame Tussfels will have you take a position as a waxwork if you're not careful. I think there might be a more pressing concern. I still had some flash powder left from 6 months ago, so... Alright, Gina, we understand, but please, put down the gun. Sorry, I got scared. You should try being the one on the other end of the barrel. So, what brings you here, Gina? What brings me here? What do you think? We found it. We found that Dodgy Cub's workshop. What? You found Drebber's workshop? Yep. Toby's nose took me straight there. The boss and others are heading over there now in a drag, so come on. Here's the address. I got the boss to write it out. Oh, thank you, Gina. We'll make our way there at once. Alright, then see you there. You go. Don't mind me. I'll just stay here, being still. What? I know my place. In the exhibit over there. Oh dear, someone is feeling sorry for himself. Let's go, Mr. Sholmes. You're coming. Your words heartened me, I must say. But if I were to shirk my duties here... Matt, forget that. I'll pay for everything. Then there's not a moment to lose, my dear fellow. I shall hail a carriage at once. No offer to share the cost from Mr. Sholmes then, I believe. Well, we all knew that was gonna happen. I shall gladly pay half, Mr. Naruhodo. Thank you, Mr. Sato. Right, let's go. Enoch Drebber's Workshop, October 23rd. That looks like... Oh! It's another super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine! Indeed it would appear so, though only a prototype naturally. Ah! You got here then. Gina! Well done finding this place. And in such little time, you've really worked miracles. It's Toby here who's the miracle worker. Ah, I thought you lot would show up before long. Hello, Inspector. That's one knitted bro. Looks like he's eating a lemon, not a bag of fish and chips. So, Inspector, is there any sign of the engineer? Sadly not. And I passed that. Hold on a second. We didn't find a soul in here. Oh, what a shame. Well, thank you for letting us know about this place and giving us the chance to investigate. According to what Gina tells me, we only found it thanks to a clue that you lot turned up. I wouldn't want to say go to Paris with a debt of gratitude and paid now, would I? Thank you. Anyway, if you're hoping to snoop around in here, I'd get cracking. Lloyd Van Deeks and the forensic investigation team are on their way here as we speak. Them again. I imagine you got the picture by now. They don't take too kindly to lawyer types. Right. So then, my dear fellow, let's turn this place upside down whilst we have the chance. And you, Sholmes. Pardon? They take even less kindly to great detectives than they do to lawyers. Very droll, Gregson. Very droll. But you may consider me nothing more than an inconspicuous waxwork model. Right then. Let's see what we can find in here. Alright, let's examine. Let's examine the machine. I'm sorry, Mr. Naruhodo, that machine is covered by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. There would be serious repercussions if you were to examine it from the Crown and the government. Well, those two don't seem to be holding back. It's quite hollow inside. No working parts or devices of deception to be seen, my dear fellow. No loose change dropped on the floor or nothing. Not even a bone for Toby here, my dear fella. British people are very much ruled by their own ideals, aren't they? I think that's just these two, Mr. Sato. Okay. Ooh. This is... It's a European-style quiver of arrows with steel bolts inside. Oh, do you suppose... Crossbow bolts, these. And just the right size for the bow you lot turned up at the exhibition grounds. In other words. Yep, that's more evidence to support your theory. It all goes to show that Drebber was the one pulling the strings behind the scenes of the whole scam. Alright, let's go. This door doesn't want to open. Yeah, looks like it's got a pretty hefty lock on it. There's a specialist locksmith on his way over from the yard, so hands off till he gets here. With permission, Inspector, I could have that lock open in less than a minute. Well, you don't have permission, and no one's giving it to you. Gregson looks as though he really enjoyed that. Well, looks there's no sound of anybody on the other side. No, Jared must have fled at the first sign of danger. Ah, this appears to be the most interesting. Yes, most interesting indeed, wouldn't you say? An impressive-looking back massager, that's for sure. I've no doubt if you hit your shoulders a few times with that, your aches and pains would soon go away. It's a Royal Society trophy for excellence in science. A young scientist could wish for no higher honor. Ah, would you like a massage? No, I'm fine, thank you. I had no idea it was such a grand thing. Oh, hold on, I missed out on that. I think it's becoming increasingly clear that there's much more to this Mr. Enoch Drebber than conjuring tricks. I couldn't agree more, my dear madam. And how about you, Mr. Naruhodo? Would you like to take it with you? For your tired shoulders, of course. He's not gonna let that go, is he? It's curious though, isn't it? You would expect such an important trophy to be proudly on display somewhere, not haphazardly cast aside. English gentlemen can be quite a mystery at times. Uh-oh, what was that? Oh, is something wrong, Mr. Sato? Well, I thought I heard a noise from the far side of that door. Well, Gina, did you hear it too? Yeah, I heard it all. What do you reckon, Toby? Right, mind the grease. Whoever's in there, open up. This is Scotland Yard. Someone ran away. Oh my, someone is in there. Ah, this frightened bleeding lock. My dear Gregson, as I said only minutes ago. If only it were continents, I could unlock that door in less than a minute. Fine. I'll take the rap for it. Just guess it. There. You may enter at will. You confused minutes with seconds, I believe. Time is of the essence, I feel. What are we waiting for? Alright guys, I'm going to have to end the video here for today. Thank you all for watching. This is getting pretty exciting right now. I want to know who's behind that door. So if anything else guys, until the next one, thank you all for watching.